On this week's episode of Five Films, I welcome Rebecca McHugh. Rebecca is a force of nature with a truly diverse taste in films that covers decades, centuries almost, and that's echoed in her selections today.
Okay, so for my first pick, I've chosen based on categories, by the way. So for the first category, I wanted to pick a film that kind of brought me to Snips movies in the first place, and that is the 1972 Spanish and Portuguese horror film Tombs of the Blind Dead. I was going through a big zombie phase a few years ago after watching George Romero's films for the first time. And I was researching more zombie or like zombie adjacent movies which I could watch. And I heard about this film in which a group of satanic medieval knights rise from the dead, as they're commonly known to do. I'm sure you'll know. And they start to naturally kill and torment anyone who crosses their path. I thought this sounded really cool. Unfortunately, I'm quite a big fan of trying to find films in the wild, so to speak, rather than ordering them online. Could not find this anywhere. It was never in HMV, and I was constantly rootling through charity shops to no avail. So when I heard about Snips for the first time, I went to your online catalogue and typed in Tombs of the Blind Dead, but I thought they won't have it. Like I've had such rotten luck everywhere else. It's not going to be here. And not only did you have the film, you had the entire Blind Dead collection. I didn't even know it was a series at the time, so I was bouncing off the walls. And I haven't watched the rest yet, as you'll know. They are on my list, the dreaded list. It takes you so long to get round to watching things. But I had so much fun with Tombs of the Blind Dead that I'm really looking forward to them. And yeah, so this is what started it all, basically. My next category is one of my personal favourite movie endings. And for this one, I've chosen the 1954 musical Brigadoon, which you very kindly ordered in for me when I couldn't find it in Snips Movies Gene Kelly section. So thank you for that. And this tells the story of Tommy Albright, who, whilst on holiday, like a shooting holiday with his friend in Scotland, happens across the idyllic village of Brigadoon where he meets a charming young woman called Fiona and, quickly falls in love with her. And whilst we're on the topic of Gene Kelly, just wanted to stress up front that I love Singing in the Rain. It's hands down one of my all time favorite films. But if I did have a teeny tiny nitpick, it would be that the ending always feels a little bit abrupt to me. Not a major criticism by any means, but I feel like it could have benefited from even being a minute or two longer, allowing us to fully bask in our hero's success and love for each other at the end. So even though that's still one of my favorite movies, I think Brigadoon has it beat in terms of just the most perfect, beautiful ending imaginable. Don't know if you've seen it for yourself, but if you have, you'll probably know that I'm talking about the bar scene in New York. And I think it wonderfully conveys that feeling of when there's this you can just tell there's this unrest in his soul and that he's pining for both this place and this person. And you know that he'll never fully feel like he's home until he's reunited again. It's heartwarming stuff. And I know I'm probably making it sound very cheesy, and it probably is, and tastes will vary. But for me, there was enough emotional sincerity there to stop it being too sappy. But I know some people really can't stomach musicals. I love them, but to each their own. My next category is going to be a film from my favorite decade of cinema, if it is even possible to choose such a thing. And personally, I'm a big fan of the 1970s. We'll ignore that I've already talked about Tombs of the Blind Dead, which is a 70s movie, because I also really want to talk about Killer of Sheep, which for me exemplifies a lot of the stuff that I really love about 70s cinema at its finest. This tells the story of a working class black man called Stan, and he has a job at a slaughterhouse where he kills and skins sheep. And just based on that very bare bones description, you'd think this would be a relentlessly bleak film, and why would you ever want to watch that? But the film is also about Stan's local community, and director Charles Burnett infuses the film with so many wonderfully human moments that it does end up feeling like a triumph of the human spirit, and it feels strangely hopeful in spite of all the poverty and lack of opportunity that you're seeing on screen. We have moments like Stan's daughter singing to herself whilst playing with her toy doll, or Stan and his wife like gently dancing together before he leaves for work. Or there's the iconic shot of children jumping over rooftops whilst they're playing together, which is probably one of the more famous moments associated with this film. And I think a lot of 70s cinema sort of has this sort of grit to it, which I really like and really resonates with me. And they all feel very attuned to injustice and a little bit angry and a little bit cynical, but never in a way that feels completely beyond hope. You've got stuff like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or Network. Even some of the animated offerings from the decade, like Watership Down, it's brutal, but it's beautiful as well. And this film, again, just embodies all of that for me. Um, and yeah, it just feels so human in its portrayal of this community. And I think there is a misconception sometimes, sorry to go on a rant, but I think there is a misconception sometimes that people think you're watching films to escape reality or have like a reprieve from it, which might be true for some people, definitely. But for me, I think films are a way of like getting closer to reality and of understanding it on a deeper level. And films like that really are eye opening in that regard. And I just think it's a phenomenal and deeply human film. My next category of film is one which I had a really special experience seeing on the big screen at the cinema. And we're over in the children's and families section for that because you have such an amazing selection of titles for children and families. And I wanted an excuse to highlight that because, you know, you're never too young to find a film that you love here, which is wonderful. And the movie I've selected today is The Wild Robot, which came out last year. And this tells the story of a robot called Rosm7134, but you can call her Roz. And she crash lands on an island which is completely uninhabited by human life, but it's nevertheless very abundant in wildlife. And she ends up becoming a mother figure to an orphaned gosling called Brightbill. My sister really wanted to see this film on the big screen, and she kept asking if we could go together. And she was saying, "Yeah, when are we going to go? When are we going to go?" And I was saying, "We will. Yeah, I'll get round to it. I promise." And then we just never did. Life gets in the way, as we were saying earlier. And it was getting to a point where it was on the cusp of no longer being shown in cinemas at all. And I could tell my sister was devastated because she'd really wanted that experience. But then luckily it was her birthday and I saw it was still screening at the Odeon at the Trafford Centre in Manchester. And I said, "Oh, well, that's great. We can go see the film in the morning. I'll buy you lunch afterwards. We can maybe do some shopping and you'll still have plenty of time left over to enjoy the rest of your birthday." We go, we have the cinema completely to ourselves. I get such a thrill when that happens. And I always sound, I always worry that I sound antisocial when I say that because I fully appreciate that a good audience can elevate the movie going experience. I went to see Flow just this weekend, which beat Wild Robot to Best Animated Feature recently, and that was an amazing audience, 10 out of 10. But a bad audience can also ruin the experience as well. So I don't like that uncertainty or rolling that dice every time and thinking, do they look like troublemakers? Do they look like chatterboxes? So it was so special seeing it just us and not have to worry about anyone. And I knew I'd probably enjoy the film. I was not prepared for how much it would get to me, and I literally cried. I counted. I cried 5 times watching this film, and it was getting to the movie's climax, and I was just there's no other word for it. I was a mess. Like I was, I was crying and snotty, and you know when you can feel your faces inflamed, and yeah, I thought. And my sister never cries at films, so the lights were about to come back on, and I thought she's going to see what a mess I am and what a crybaby I'm being, and it'll be embarrassing, but it's fine. I turn to face her when the lights come back on. She's the exact same, tears flowing, she's inconsolable, and we take a moment to kind of laugh at ourselves and each other, and then we sit for the rest of the credits. The lights come back on fully, the screen goes completely black. We stand up to gather our things, and she just throws her arms around me and gives me the biggest hug, and she says, "Thank you so much for that. I think that's one of my new favorite films." And it was such a powerful moment and so special, and I'm not exaggerating when I say I think it will stay with me for the rest of my life. And finally, my final category is a movie which I've never seen before and which I'll be taking home from Snips today, which is very, very exciting. As a fan of your YouTube videos, I know you've mentioned that the poor old documentary section can be a bit neglected sometimes. And I was thinking about it for myself, and you'll appreciate that I've not been coming here that long in the grand scheme of things. I started coming here last April, but in that time, I've only rented one documentary film, which was Gates of Heaven by Errol Morris, another 70s film, amazing. And yeah, and it did make me reconsider a lot of stuff. And I thought, well, why don't I take out more documentaries? And I really wanted to show that section some love today. And the movie I will be taking home, oh, I've got it upside down, is Free Solo, which is about a professional rock climber who wants to be the first free solo climber to scale a 900-meter rock face at Yosemite National Park called El Capitan. And I was drawn to this film for two reasons. First and foremost, it's directed by a husband and wife team, which is really cool. Always happy to see a woman in the director's chair, and for it to be a collaborative effort between spouses as well is brilliant. Love that for them. And the second reason that I wanted to get this film out is because I'm actually terrified of heights. And just the thought of, being up this rock face with no rope or protective equipment or even anyone to help you, from what I can gather, apart from this film crew who are literally just there to film your progress. It just knocks me sick, to be honest. And, like, even looking at the cover, I feel a bit queasy and my stomach's on the floor, so I'm gonna put that down for a sec. But yeah, but you might think, "Why are you taking this movie out if it's so upsetting to you?" But I think sometimes it is good to watch a film that challenges you in some way or does make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. I have every faith that this will be an agonizing viewing experience for me, but I also think it will be weirdly exhilarating in its own right. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching it. Can I just say a little thing at the end, like a little bonus thing? So just wanted to say thank you so much for letting me take part in this. I'm sure a lot of other people will really be enjoying the 5 film series. I know I am. And just wanted to say thank you to Snips more generally for being such an incredible asset to the local community.